Do you ever feel like no matter how well you eat, how much exercise you do, or how many healthy habits from social media that you try, nothing really changes? I did it for years, and it drove me nuts. I ate clean, I did fasted cardio, I even stopped having milk in my coffee because someone told me that that would help with fat loss, and all it really did was make my coffee taste horrible. It took me a few years to realise that most popular weight loss habits on social media, they're a complete waste of time. And if anything, they're actually slowing people down and they're keeping us fat. So in this video, I'm going to show you which habits you're probably doing that are just social media nonsense so that you're not wasting any more time and can start losing fat straight away, just like I did, and like I have with over 2,000 clients. The first habit that kept me fat, no matter how much of it I did, HIIT training. Now we've all done it. We've all seen the follow along YouTube workouts doing a sweaty HIIT session in your living room looking like a plonker to anyone who spots you through the window. You're going all out. Burpees, squats, high knees, sick, and then on to round two. And it feels like it's got to work. You're absolutely knackered by the end of it. But what most people don't know about these intense workouts is that they're not bad, but they don't equal more fat loss. Fat loss is determined primarily by a calorie deficit, i.e. you eat less calories than you burn. You could do 1,000,000 burpees every day, and if you're still consuming too many calories, you wouldn't lose any fat. Now for me, doing HIIT made me want to eat more because I felt like I was working really hard. And that's actually backed up by science. A lot of people see that when they do intense exercise, they see an increase in appetite. So it makes dieting much harder. Now that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Some people love doing HIIT training. And ultimately, you should do whatever exercise you enjoy the most and can see yourself doing long term. But the way HIIT is painted as superior for fat loss is just not true. I have clients that do HIIT and I have clients that just walk. Both of them are losing fat. So before jumping around your front room like a lunatic, check if your calories are in order. It will save you a lot of pain. But doing a load of HIIT without taking your calories into consideration probably isn't the only thing keeping you fat. Which brings me on to habit number 2, cutting out carbs. So you gave up the pasta and the bread and maybe even some fruit because you've heard that carbs are the problem. But how long does it last? Maybe a week before you're invited to a meal with some friends and the only options on the menu, they've all got carbs in. So you might pick as best as you can but still feel like you've failed the diet and eventually just give up because of it. You're also a miserable git the entire time because you gave up some of your favourite foods. And quite frankly, a diet without almond croissants is not a diet that I can get behind. So why does it actually get recommended so much? When you cut carbs, you lose a load of water weight on the scale, which in your first week of dieting is pretty exciting. Now for every gram of carbohydrate you eat, you store about 3 grams of water. So when you cut those carbohydrates out, you also lose them. But similar to point 1, now that we know that a calorie deficit is the most important part, you can cut carbs and still consume too many calories and therefore lose no fat. Which kind of begs the question, what's the point? And while in the first week it might look like it's working better just because you're seeing more weight come off, it's water, it's not fat. And unless you're a boxer weighing in for a fight, which if you are, you're probably on the wrong video, you don't need to do it. So now you have 2 options now that you know that calorie deficit is the most important part. Option number 1, do a calorie deficit with carbs. Great for your energy, great for performance. Or option 2, a calorie deficit without carbs. Just great for being boring. Both of them will work, so you might as well include some of your favourite food along the way. You'll probably find it easier to stick to and be more consistent. Now adding carbs back into your diet is going to make it way more enjoyable, but it's not the only easy change you can make to start losing weight. Which brings me on to habit 3, the 1200 calorie diet. You've probably at one point or another tried a diet on 1200 calories or less because you want to lose fat fast. And then you're constantly hungry and you're obsessed with food and you're tired and still you're not seeing much progress for your efforts. It sort of leaves you thinking, what the fuck have I got to do here? I can't possibly eat much less. And this is where people will tell you that it's starvation mode. It's not. That doesn't exist. Certainly not in the way that it's implied anyway. But that's probably for another video. So here's what's actually happening when you eat 1200 calories. For most people, excluding very small or inactive people, 1200 calories would be a huge and very difficult deficit to stick to. And most people who think they're eating 1200, they simply aren't. Not because they're lying, it's just really hard to track calories accurately, especially when your target is so low. And things like oils and sauces and butters, they quickly add up. Now some people will actually eat 1200 calories, but only for a few days before the weekend hits and all the hunger and food noise takes over. You end up overeating on the weekend and undo the majority of the deficit that you worked so hard in the week to create. What most people are better off doing instead of creating a huge deficit hoping for fast progress that doesn't really last, aim for something more sustainable, like a 500 calorie deficit per day, obviously person dependent, which should be enough to feel full, fueled, and still allow you some freedom to enjoy the food that you really like. And with less food noise and less hunger, you'll actually have the energy to make sure that you're doing the next habit. That brings me on to number 4, avoiding weight training because you think it makes you bulky. A lot of people are taught to do low reps to tone up and heavy weights to bulk up. And it kills me. If you are currently doing bodyweight workouts or light cardio because you're worried about getting too muscly, or because someone on TikTok has said that they stopped lifting heavy and it completely changed their body to what they've always dreamt of, which, you know, is their experience, so I can't necessarily say that it's not true. It's not really what the science says, and it's the reason so many waste hours doing exercise hoping to see changes in their body. We don't really get anywhere. Right, boring bit coming up, but to build strength and muscle, you need something called progressive overload. And in basic terms, you need to continuously challenge your muscles to convince them to grow. Alongside that, you need rest and good nutrition. But building muscle is incredibly slow, like filling a swimming pool with a spoon. And I can promise you, you won't get bulky lifting weights unless you are one of 2 things. You're either a medical marvel, in which case, sign up for a bodybuilding show as soon as possible, take all the cash. Or 2, you're probably on a large amount of anabolic steroids. Now the women you see here on screen, they aren't natural, and you aren't going to do that in just a few years of lifting. The clients of mine that you see here are natural, and they've been lifting weights the entire time they've been working with me. And aside from the body changes, it's also cool to be strong, and it means that you can wipe your own ass when you're 80, which you might not be thinking about now, but we all have our time. The next habit that might be keeping you fat is number 5. Clean eating. I remember in 2015 dieting for a holiday, desperate to get into good shape so that I wouldn't be the only chubby bloke in my group. I was eating clean for every meal, and I was absolutely miserable doing it. So every few days, I'd have a blowout and order something off plan and call it a cheat meal. And I did it for months, and I never lost a single kilo. What I changed would go against pretty much every bit of fitness advice you see online. I actually started incorporating my favourite foods into my diet every single day, without calling it a cheat meal. If I was on 2,000 calories, I'd use 200 to 300 of them on something I was actually looking forward to. A cookie or a Mars ice cream. Ugh. Removing the idea that all meals needed to be clean or entirely nutritious sort of removed the guilt that I associated with nice food. Now I still got most of my diet from nutritious whole foods, but I kept room for meals out and a social life, maybe even a bloody beer every now and then. That's how you build a lifestyle rather than just hopping from diet to diet. And speaking of building a lifestyle, that brings me on to the 6th habit that might be keeping you fat. Is walking pointless? You might think with walking, if I'm not nearly dying doing exercise, is it really worth doing? Because that's what everyone on social media makes it look like. Not realising that you're giving up one of the biggest keys to fat loss that's the easiest to do if you're serious about seeing changes. We all want to be able to eat more. That would make fat loss just a fuckload easier. Well, you can do that by increasing the amount of calories you burn every day, but not by running or cycling or doing a load of HIIT that completely drains you for the day, but by just walking throughout the day. For a 70-kilo woman, 10,000 steps a day will burn like 400 calories. And you don't need to do them all at once, like a morning walk before work, a lunchtime stroll, and a bit of pottering about the office. You're probably hitting 10k doing that. It's easy on your body, it is great for your mental health, and it's one of the key factors in long-term weight maintenance because you can do it every day as part of the new lifestyle that you're building. So now that you know that not all healthy habits are actually that good for weight loss, but knowing that you don't need to do HIIT or knowing that you can eat your favourite foods as part of a balanced diet doesn't really mean anything if you don't know how to create that balance without going overboard. So watch this next video where I'm going to show you how I stopped craving bad food altogether, and it made weight loss easier than ever.